Hi everyone, good afternoon, welcome along to the Transfer Show. Carve's here, Darmish is here, we might still plenty of transfers to be done. Here's a little flavour of what's coming up this hour.
We've been looking to sign a striker.
I can see Ben be a striker for Manchester United for a longer few years.
For loads of different reasons, we haven't been able to sign one.
We are looking, of course, in the market.
Tottenham in that case, or any other club, who wants a player should call the club.
If you want to have any talks about him, you should go to Palace, to Glasgow, and ask him.
Mark trains the entire week with us, every single training session, the same with Eps if you want to ask the next questions.
And we are short on options.
I'm not pleased because I think I still need more.
We want to sign players.
I think we need a central defender. We need time, if not to do like this.
How confident are you that he will be a Brighton player coming into the window?
Very, very, very confident.
Celebrate the start of the new season.
Gary Cottrell, always in control. There he was at the Emirates, and we heard from all the managers throughout Total Football, and plenty of them to come over the next hour or so. Where else to start than with the transfer saga of the summer so far? Eddie Howe says that there is no change with Alexander Isak's situation, but he insists that there is a way back for him at Newcastle. Howe believes the striker will still be at the club when the transfer window closes, but he's told the team to forget about him for this weekend and their game against Aston Villa.
As we stand now, would you still expect Alex to be a Newcastle player on September the 2nd?
Yeah, I at the moment I would, but I've got no change of feeling throughout the summer. It's not in my hands, but he's contracted to us, so that's why I say that.
Have you tried? Have you asked him if he would play tomorrow?
I think those conversations, I mean, of course, I said many times during this summer I want him to play, want him to train, and of course I've had those conversations with him, but I think the details of those conversations need to remain private.
Is there a way back for him to play for Newcastle again on whenever it may be?
Yes, I believe there is, but of course discussions and talks would have to take place in order for that to happen.
OK, as I mentioned, Darmish Sheth and Carve Solikol here alongside me. He said there, Eddie Howe, Darmish, that there is a way back for Alexander Isak. Do you think that there is?
I mean, he must be sick now of answering these questions every single news conference. He just wants this saga sorted out one way or another with Alexander Isak, but it looks like it is going to rumble on. Is there a way back? I think Eddie Howe has to say there is, regardless of how he feels, whether he thinks deep down whether there is a way back or not. Simply because, one, if Newcastle United do end up selling Alexander Isak, he needs to say the right things to make sure that the market value stays in a certain place. Some people would say it's gone too far because of how they perceive Alexander Isak has conducted himself here. But we have seen instances before where players maybe have come from even further back than what Alexander Isak is here. We'll be old enough to remember the Pierre van Hooijdonk saga back in 1998 when he effectively went on strike at Nottingham Forest, and yet he came back. And more recently, Carlos Tevez. Roberto Mancini says he will never play for Manchester City again when he refused to come off the bench in that Champions League game against Bayern Munich. And yet, by the end of the season, he was helping Manchester City win that dramatic title back in 2012. So, is there a way back? Eddie Howe says yes. On face value, we have to believe Eddie Howe because he is consistently having to answer these questions every single news conference. Whether he does have a way back, we don't know. He's not going to feature this weekend for starters, though.
Interesting phrase that you mentioned there, Darmish. The way that he has conducted himself, talking about Alexander Isak. Carve, any sympathy for Isak?
I think from a football perspective, no sympathy. From a human perspective, yes. And the reason I say that is there's definitely more to this than meets the eye. We don't know exactly what is going on. I don't think Alexander Isak is somebody who would just behave like this for no reason whatsoever. There was a very good column I read a couple of weeks ago by Martin Samuel who seemed to suggest that Isak thought that he'd been promised a new contract at Newcastle and for whatever reason that hadn't materialised. Having said all that, from a football perspective, there's absolutely no excuse for not training and playing for your club. I'm not sure quite what he's achieving by not training and not playing for Newcastle. He signed a contract with Newcastle, they're paying his wages, so surely the best thing for him would be to train and play, but if needs be, every day, send an email to the chief executive or, go and see Eddie Howe every day and say, look, I'm training 100%. When I play, I'll give 100%. But it hasn't changed the fact that I want to leave. I want a new challenge. The way he's gone about it, without knowing all the facts and without knowing what's going on behind the scenes, you would think it's not the way to behave, especially when you represent a fan base as passionate as Newcastle United's.
OK, so that's the Newcastle side of things. But what is Liverpool's stance on the situation? Well, Arne Slot is adamant they need another attacker in before the end of the window.
It's clear that with Darwin gone and Luis Diaz gone, and even last season we had 5 or 6 options, I think. Again, Diogo, I need to mention him as well. So yeah, that we need to have one more attacker, at least.
OK, so that's pretty clear, isn't it, from Arne Slot Carve? And of course, it's always the way. The fixture computer loves to kind of, play its own role. And these two sides are playing each other a week on Monday. It'll be the Monday night football of match round 2, if you like. So what colours will Alexander Isak be wearing if he's at all involved?
I think if I was a betting man, you would say that it's probably for the best if he sits this one out. If anything's going to happen regarding his future, perhaps the best time to do it is when this fixture is out of the way, because I can't really close my eyes and imagine him playing for Liverpool at St James's Park in just 9 days' time. But on the other hand, could he play for Newcastle? Eddie Howe said he still hopes that this can be resolved, and he's still got a Newcastle contract. So who knows, maybe in the next few days there could be some developments which would mean that he's welcomed back into the fold. But I would find it very, very difficult to imagine him playing for Liverpool at St James's Park a week on Monday.
Yeah, it seems interesting in terms of just the timing. This fixture, it sort of splits the rest of the transfer window that we have left in two. We have, before that game and after that game. And if we're still talking about this post that Monday night football, it'll put incredible pressure on that last week of the window. Well, I mean, Newcastle at least have been consistent in saying that Isak will not leave until they have a replacement. And we know that they are interested in Brentford's Yoane Wissa. OK, so tell us, Dharmesh, where are we at with this particular situation?
I think Newcastle United now are expected to try and accelerate this deal with Brentford for Yoane Wissa. We understand that Wissa's representatives who are in the UK were assured that Brentford would engage with Newcastle once Brentford had an idea or an assurance that there was going to be reinforcements in the attacking department. Now, we do know that Dango Otara's move from Bournemouth to Brentford is now close to being finalised. Wissa's camp, for their part, they are ready to finalise any kind of personal terms that need to be tied up with Newcastle in advance, they hope, of a move to Newcastle, because he's made it clear he doesn't want to play for Brentford again. That's his intention, not to do that again, Yoane Wissa. And his intention is he wants to go to Newcastle United. He's 28 years old. He feels he is not going to get this opportunity again to play in the Champions League, to play for a club like Newcastle United. He sees this as almost like the last chance saloon for him in his career to be able to get a move like that. You mentioned about replacements for Isak. I don't think Wissa would be seen as a replacement for Isak, though, because you've got to remember they also lost Callum Wilson when his contract expired and he didn't sign a new deal at Newcastle United. I think Yoane Wissa will probably be seen as a replacement for Callum Wilson. That leaves a potential replacement for Alexander Isak if he leaves. We don't know whether that's going to happen yet or not. But look, Newcastle United have been trying the entire summer to bring in an out-and-out striker, Benjamin Sesko. They went all out for him. You can't blame Newcastle for how they approached that, because they went big on Benjamin Sesko. They tried to get him for 90 million euros all in, but his decision was to go to Manchester United. And we can't say he snubbed Newcastle. It was just he wanted to play for Manchester United. And the same can go for Hugo Ekitike. They went big on Ekitike as well, 70 million bid, but he decided he wanted to go to Liverpool. So who's left? That's the other issue that Eddie Howe and the recruitment team will be looking at. As much as they see the situation with Isak as being a problematic one, how do they replace him if he goes, and with who? How do you replace Alexander Isak? They've been looking at a number of strikers. Ollie Watkins was mentioned. Nicolas Jackson, they're keeping an eye on as well, who wants to explore his options outside Chelsea. So are those players good enough to replace Alexander Isak? Even the other players we've mentioned, Ekitike and Sesko, would they have been good enough to replace Alexander Isak? So it's a bit of a problem here for Newcastle United. The one thing I would say, though, they do hold the cards in one sense, in that he's still got 3 years left on his contract. So they can say, get your, buck your ideas up, you're staying. You're under contract.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show, doesn't it? This is the pool that Newcastle are fishing in, and these are the competitors they have to face to get those top names. But, however, it's worth saying, Jacob Ramsey has agreed a deal to join Newcastle. Hasn't been registered in time, though, to play against his former club. Eddie Howe said earlier that he didn't think Ramsey would be involved, even if they did get a deal over the line in time. So keep a very close eye on Newcastle. It's one that you sense is going to keep bubbling along right until the end of the window. And, of course, that king piece really is Alexander Isak and how it affects everything else as a result. Right, let's talk Carlos Baleba now. And Brighton boss Fabian Hertzler is confident the midfielder will still be at the club at the end of this summer transfer window. We know that Manchester United are interested in the 21-year-old, but it would be a costly deal to do.
Very, very, very confident.
Yeah?
Yes.
Any particular reason why?
Just my belief. I didn't see any change. He only changed his hairs, so I think that was the only change he made the last 2 weeks. But overall, he seems to be in a really good place. He's enjoying it with his teammates. He's enjoying it being a Brighton player. He's very grateful to have the process he had in the last season. So I didn't see any big change, and he's an option to start for tomorrow. Yes.
His first words there were very, very confident. Why do you think Fabian Hertzler feels so confident?
They hold all the cards, Brighton. Carlos Baleba has got 3 years left on his contract. Brighton have got the option to extend that for a further year. They don't want to sell. They've got no intention of selling. And because of his contract situation, they are under no pressure to sell as well. And I think also the price would be pretty prohibitive to Manchester United, and that would make it an almost impossible deal to do as it stands, because I'm sure we'll talk about it later about the number of players that Manchester United want to get money for because they want to offload. But I think Brighton will look at Carlos Baleba and they'll compare him to Moises Caicedo. And the noises coming out of Brighton are saying that he's actually further in his development at his stage of his career than Moises Caicedo was at that stage of his career. And what did Moises Caicedo go for? £115 million to Chelsea. So why can't Brighton say, well, if Moises Caicedo went for that, that's going to be our starting point with Carlos Baleba? As far as Manchester United are concerned, their focus clearly is going to be on the Premier League opener. They have signed 3 new forward players. They've revamped that front line with Matheus Cunha, with Bryan Mbeumo and with Benjamin Sesko. Yeah. But Ruben Amorim, in his news conference earlier on today, was asked the question, what chance a midfielder? And this is what...
Hi, Ruben. Just on the midfield situation, do you want a new midfielder to come in, and would you be confident of getting one in? Because it does look like you're quite light in that area. I'm
really happy with our players. They are working really well. We have different players for that position, so we are prepared to win any game with our players.
Well, in terms of trying to transform their fortunes, Manchester United are definitely backing Ruben Amorim in the transfer market. That's fair to say with that front line. But how significant a change would it be to get in a player like Carlos Baleba, despite the fact, as Thomas just said, that this would be a difficult deal to do?
I think it's almost impossible this summer. We've been speaking to the Brighton chief executive, Paul Barber, today as well, and he made it very clear that Baleba is not going anywhere. He said, we're looking forward to seeing him play for us this season. So I still think United need to bring some more players in before the window closes. Yes, they've done a lot of business across their front line, but they do need, I think, reinforcements in midfield and perhaps in defence, and there's still question marks over the goalkeeping situation as well. But I don't think it's going to be Baleba. Baleba maybe will have to be one for next summer, but if he has another really good season, his value is just going to keep going up and up and up, even though his contract situation is going to obviously develop, because he'd only have 2 years left on his contract next summer, although I don't know if Brighton have got the option to extend that by another 12 months.
Well, one thing I would say about Manchester United is, before the window even opened, and how last season went when they finished 15th in the Premier League and they lost that Europa League final to Tottenham Hotspur and Bilbao as well, I think most pundits and most experts were saying this is not a one-window fix. This is 2, 3, 4 windows it's going to take before Manchester United can really begin to challenge again. But because the window started so well for them, Matheus Cunha came in really, really early in that window. Bryan Mbeumo, there was lots of talk, and even though it was only sorted out a few weeks ago, there was a knowledge that that deal was going to happen. So people were getting pretty excited. Look, Cunha's done, and Mbeumo's done. Oh, can they get a striker? Oh, they've got Sesko. And now they're getting a little bit greedy, for want of a better word. Oh, why don't we just sign the midfielder now? And they're thinking about, we could challenge for top 4 here. Whereas I think if you go back and just take a step back, I think most experts would agree that it's going to take a little bit longer than just this one window. And sometimes, because of the players that Manchester United need to unload, and also the money that they need to generate to be able to replenish this window, it's nigh on impossible to do every single position in one transfer window. Yes, they would love to bring in a midfielder. That's why there is this interest. And one thing I would say about the Belieber interest is because it is out there and because Manchester United might have explored the conditions of a deal, we know how transfers work. Manchester United and other clubs do not go and express an interest in a player blindly. There must be some sort of encouragement somewhere along the line that maybe the player might think, you know what, I might be open to that move. But that is completely separate here to what Brighton's position would be, because even if Carlos Belieber just say he did want to go to Manchester United, Brighton can just say, well, you're not going anywhere. You've got 3 years left on your contract. We've got a year's option. And if we are to let you go, then it's going to be over £100 million. And people will say, well, you can compare that to the Alexander Isak situation. And so why are people saying, well, it's still potentially going to happen to Liverpool? Because we haven't really heard of any disunity or disharmony with regard to Carlos Belieber at Brighton.
No, those are very distinct in that respect. Yeah,
that's the big difference.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when you look at the amount of money spent, you know, Liverpool have spent almost £300 million. That's without Isak, if it does happen. Chelsea have spent around £250 million. Manchester United up until this point, £214 million. But, you know, they want to be competing, especially given the fact that Liverpool and United are currently on 20 top-flight titles each, and they sense that Liverpool might get back on the perch if the spending continues that they can't keep up with. But on the point of sort of, it's not a one-window fix, Darmish. I mean, Carve, I wonder about this. Harry Maguire said in a recent interview that United were mentally weak in the past. And how much do you think that these new signings and things like, for example, the refreshed training ground might add to a sense of rebirth, renewal at Manchester United to try and change things culturally as well? That's a wider context piece, I guess.
I think, look, what Manchester United have to do is back Ruben Amorim, which is exactly what they're doing, and give him as much time as possible, because there's been too much chopping and changing of managers, too many managers buying different players which haven't worked out. Now, sitting here, it's been a good summer for Manchester United, but we don't know how these signings are going to work out. Not every signing works out the way you think it's going to work out. For instance, when United signed Jadon Sancho, you know, a lot of people were very excited about the impact he was going to have, or Anthony, or Højlund. You know, in the transfer market, you're going to have hits and misses. Now, on paper, it looks like the three forwards they've signed are all going to be hits. And if you're a United fan, you'll be thinking, Ruben Amorim's got it right this time, Jason Wilcox got it right, Jim Ratcliffe's got it right. We need to get behind the team. But remember, United are not going to be challenging for the title this season. The aim is just to get back into Europe. It's going to take a few steps, and it's going to take quite a few transfer windows as well. I think if you're a United fan, you just want a big improvement on last season, and you want to see United playing, attacking and defending in the way that United fans are used to seeing their teams play and perform.
Yeah, and at least in terms of the incomings, you know, it looks like it is shaping up that way. And we will discuss the United outgoings later on in the show. So plenty of chat there about Manchester United, but of course, the Premier League season starts at the home of their bitter rivals, Liverpool. Welcome back to the Transfer Show with myself, Darmish and Carve. 17 days left in this summer window. Lines coming into us all the time. Carve, on Chelsea, what have you got?
Well, Chelsea have got absolutely no interest in loaning out Carney Chukwuemeka. I think we were reporting in the last hour that they've rejected a bid from Borussia Dortmund to take him on loan again. That was a loan plus an obligation to buy him for £15 million. Now, I think Chelsea have been pretty disappointed with how his loan at Dortmund worked out last season. I'm not sure, I'd have to check the exact minutes, but perhaps they feel that he didn't play as much as he should have when he was with them. So Chelsea will not consider a loan for him at all this summer. If anybody wants to sign him, they're going to have to sign him on a permanent deal, and offers will have to be close to his £40 million release clause. Those are the kind of offers that would be considered by Chelsea, and of course it would need add-ons, and there would also need to be a sell-on clause for Chelsea as well. But he's not going out on loan again.
OK, thank you, Carve. Right then, the Premier League, of course, is back and it returns to the home of the champions at Anfield. We can join Alan Irwin live right now. Hi there again, Alan. Well, listen, we know that there is, of course, huge excitement around Anfield, as there will be around all the home grounds that are hosting games in the Premier League this weekend. But, of course, where you are, it is tinged with sadness, it is tinged with poignancy, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is, David. You can see the fans here at Anfield behind me. They've been gathering in their numbers throughout the course of the afternoon. We're still over 3.5 hours away from kick-off. But as you say, that excitement of a new season is tempered somewhat here at Liverpool following the tragic loss of Diogo Jota on July the 3rd. We've got bright skies and sunshine at Anfield, but there does seem like there's been a real dark cloud hovering over the football club since that day. And many tributes have been paid to Diogo Jota outside Anfield since his tragic passing. And those tributes will continue today, both on and off the pitch. There will be respect paid by the fans outside the stadium before the match gets underway. And then prior to kick-off, there will be a period of silence. And then again, the fans will pay more tributes to Diogo Jota on 20 minutes. The shirt number, of course, that he wore, and plenty of fans wearing the number 20 jersey with the Jota name on the back this evening. And I've no doubt that the Jota song, so popular with Liverpool fans, will reverberate around Anfield throughout the course of the evening, but particularly on 20 minutes. And just to make the night even more emotional, we do understand that Diogo Jota's wife and his 3 children will be in attendance here tonight.
Yeah, just watching more of those scenes there with the fans paying their tributes to Diogo Jota. Let's look, though, to the game itself and matters on the pitch. I mean, so many changes in this Liverpool squad, especially with the likes of Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike joining up. And a real show of ambition from Arne Slot.
Yeah, it's a real contrast, isn't it, to this time last season when Arne Slot had taken over and basically inherited Jurgen Klopp's side and didn't touch it. We only had Federico Chiesa come in, really, and didn't figure much in the Premier League campaign. But as I say, a real contrast this time, and you'd expect those 4 real new additions to start this game this evening. 2 new fullbacks in Jeremy Frimpong replacing Trent Alexander-Arnold. Milos Kerkez brought in from Bournemouth. He'll play against them tonight if he's selected ahead of Andy Robertson, and then ahead of them, well, real talent in Florian Wirtz, who's already excited the Liverpool fans, and Hugo Ekitike, who's been brought in as well. And Ekitike and Frimpong both on the score sheet last week in the Community Shield game against Crystal Palace, which Liverpool ultimately went on to lose. And still real concerns from fans around Liverpool defensively, and who knows, they may even strengthen further in that department. Still rumours regarding Mark Gay coming in from Crystal Palace, and who knows regarding Alexander Isak as that ongoing saga continues. He could be yet another that's brought in a real revamp around Anfield. But yeah, major investment, but they have lost players as well, of course. Liverpool have recouped money from those sales to bring in real talent, and Arne Slot says he's ready, the club are ready, raring to go, but it does take time for new players to fit in. Bournemouth likewise have got the same situation. They've lost a number of players, essentially their back line, but they have brought in replacements. They did well away from home last season. They only lost 5 of their games on the road, but they'd be wary of the fact that Liverpool haven't lost any of their 12 opening league fixtures in the last 12 seasons. They've won 9, drawn 3, and they'll be favourites to win this one. And you can see it all unfold, of course, tonight on Sky Sports. This game is live.
Thank you very much indeed, Alan. Yeah, let's confirm that for you. All the build-up from Anfield from 6:30 p.m. over on Sky Sports. Premier League kickoff is at 8, so really not long to go now. Before that, though, make sure you don't miss out on our brand new show here on Sky Sports News. It's called Premier League Friday with our new host, Roman Kemp. Perfect way to kick off the weekend right here on Sky Sports News. And remember, throughout the season, first place to watch all of the Premier League goals for free is our Sky Sports app. Scan this QR code right here and it will take you straight there once those goals are ready. Gents, we heard Alan Owen mention it there, that Liverpool may not be done yet in terms of their transfer business in this summer window. He mentioned Mark Gay, and of course Liverpool have already signed 18-year-old defender Giovanni Leone from Parma. Carve, do they still want to sign another defender? The Mark Gay links, they seem credible.
Yeah, no, they definitely want to sign Mark Gay here. I think the issue is there's a gap in valuation because he's got a year left on his contract. I think Liverpool want to pay a fee that starts with a 3 whereas Crystal Palace want a fee that starts with a 4. Now, I don't think that is unbridgeable, because Steve Parish, the Palace chairman, has come out himself and said that we can't have a situation where a player as good as Mark Gahey leaves on a free transfer next summer. But obviously he's got the option of doing that. And if he just stays at Crystal Palace, from January he can start talking to foreign clubs about moving as a free agent on a lucrative deal next summer. But I think Liverpool definitely want him. It's just a question of whether they can do a deal with Crystal Palace, because Crystal Palace, I think their fans will accept the fact that out of Mark Gahey and Eberechi Eze, one of them is probably going to go. We just don't know which one yet.
I would also add to that, Mark Gahey will have something to think about as well. He's got a World Cup,
of course,
at the end of the season.
Minutes, yeah.
And if he stays at Crystal Palace, he'll be captain. He'll be guaranteed to start, you would think, every single week.
Yeah.
Would he need assurances from Liverpool if he was to go there, whether he was going to get that game time he would need to not only make the squad under Thomas Tuchel, but maybe start as well?
Yeah, and also Alan mentioned about how Liverpool had recouped well in terms of sales, the likes of Diaz, Nunez, Quansah, Kelleher, etc., etc.
One other thing, actually.
Go on.
I forgot to mention it.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to Mark Gahey as well, there's the possibility that Liverpool would be able to do a deal with Crystal Palace, which would also involve a player or players going from Liverpool to Crystal Palace as part of that deal, because we know Palace want to bring players in as well, and there are some Liverpool players that Palace definitely would be interested in.
Okay.
So our information is that is something else that has been discussed as well.
Okay, yeah, just adds to the complexity and the options there for the clubs. Okay, outgoing at Liverpool, Dharmesh?
Yeah, you say they sell well. They're doing it again because Bournemouth are close to agreeing a deal with Liverpool for their winger Ben Doak, the Scotland international. The fee under discussion is around £25 million. They're hoping that an agreement can be reached by the weekend. He's not part of the squad for the game against Bournemouth tonight, coincidentally. But they've moved for Doak, have Bournemouth, after agreeing a deal with Brentford to sell Dango Otara. So he has been the subject of interest, has Ben Doak, from a number of clubs, not only in the Championship, but abroad in Stuttgart and in Porto. But it looks like Bournemouth have won it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Especially with the sort of domino effect, and Ouattara affecting Doak and then others, Wissa, etc., etc., etc. On the way next, Tottenham boss Thomas Frank said they want to sign a number 10. Could it be Eberechi Eze? The latest on his future is on the way next. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Let's talk Tottenham Hotspur now. Head coach Thomas Frank has made it clear today that Spurs are in the market for a new number 10.
We are looking, of course, in the market, not only for 10 positions, but just to see if we can strengthen the squad. And the players we're looking is the only players we think can improve the squad. And I think that's the right thing we want to do. If we can pick the right player and it fits, then we'll do something. I know that Daniel, Johan and Vina are working night and day. And they have, by the way, been working night and day the last, 6, 7, 8 weeks. And they definitely would like to do deals early. Sometimes I think we need to understand it's not that easy.
And of course, that means that Eberechi Eze is a player in quite sharp focus here. Currently playing in South London, could be heading to North London, but which way?
I mean, Thomas Frank said it there, that they're after a number 10 because of that cruel injury suffered to James Maddison in pre-season. So clearly there is a space in the squad for someone like Eberechi Eze. We do know that there is interest from Tottenham Hotspur. We do know that there has been interest during this transfer window from Arsenal. But it's very interesting, this, because I think both clubs won't want to show their cards just yet, only because if you are one of those clubs and are suddenly going for Eberechi Eze and it becomes quite public that you are, if you miss out to the other club, then it not only means that you've missed out on a player that you want, but you've missed out to your biggest rival. So I think they're just trying to keep it on the low at the moment. Arsenal, as I mentioned, there was interest earlier on in this transfer window, but at the moment, it feels like the focus at Arsenal is on sales. The likes of Alexander Zinchenko, Fabio Vieira, Albert Sambi-Lokonga, Reece Nelson. And then maybe if they can get enough off the books before the end of the transfer window, could they yet go again? Because Mikel Arteta has said in news conferences on a number of occasions that they might not have ended their interest in incomings in this window.
What about the Palace side of things, Kobe?
Well, there have been lots of reports this week that Eze's release clause expires when the new season kicks off tonight, and that release clause is said to be worth up to £68 million. I think even if that release clause does expire tonight, that is the kind of figure that it's going to take to tempt Crystal Palace to sell him. Remember, historically, Steve Parish has always been a very, very tough negotiator. It's been very difficult to sign Crystal Palace's best players, and I think it would take a big, big offer to tempt Crystal Palace to sell Eze. It's interesting as well because Palace have got these two really important European playoff games coming up, because obviously they know now they're in the Conference League. They're playing Friedrichstadt, I think, on the 21st and 28th of August. So maybe that is something that's coming into Palace's thinking as well, because they want to have a stronger squad as possible for those games, even though Palace will be favourites to win that playoff. They just want to make sure that they do win that playoff and get in the draw for the league phase of the Conference League.
What about just on Tottenham Hotspur there? Yeah. We saw that interview with Thomas Frank, and we saw pictures of Eberechi Eze, but we saw a picture of Savinho as well from Manchester City. There's clear interest in that player from Tottenham. They have held talks with Manchester City. City do not want to sell, and we think it would take a huge offer for them to even consider a sale. Now, Pep Guardiola held his news conference ahead of their opening game this weekend, and he was asked about Savinho's future, and he was pretty adamant about it.
Listen, this 3 or 4 or 6 press conferences we have to do. Before that, we're going to ask me that. I don't know. It's Tottenham in that case, or any other club who wants a player should call the club, right? And it's the same like we do. So only I'm concerned right now today that Savinho will be with us until the rest of the season, and hopefully for many, many years, because he's 21 years old, with the potential that he has, play a lot of minutes, he has to improve. Improve in the final decisions, but he's an extraordinary player. Otherwise, he'll not play more than 3,000 minutes in the other one. But if, at the end, as always, the desire of the players prevail above everything. But after that, they have to write to agreement with the club. And with the club is not, don't take agreement, the player will be here. Because in one moment, the club spend money on that players.
I know that's always been your stance, that if players don't want to be here, then you're happy to let them go. Have you spoken to Savinho or even Ederson about staying here for next season? Have you had that conversation?
I never played. If they want to leave, they will come to me. So I'm working with them because I'm here. If they want to leave, they will knock my door.
Carver, what do you read from what you've just heard there from Pep Guardiola?
I think it's pretty clear. He was just saying if Savinho wants to leave, he needs to tell me that. He needs to tell the club. And then if a club like Spurs want to sign him, they need to get in touch with us and make an offer. If not, we know that Pep Guardiola rates Savinho very, very highly, but he wants more and more from him because he's a very, very demanding head coach.
Yeah. Protecting his asset, but at the same time, trying to, say how high that value could go.
Just very, very quickly.
Yeah, go on quickly.
Just news reaching us now. We were talking about Carlos Baleba and Manchester United. We were saying it was going to be an increasingly difficult deal to do for Manchester United, given the price, given his contract situation. It appears now that Manchester United might not be pursuing Carlos Baleba anymore in this transfer window. Can it be revisited again in a future transfer window when Manchester United's financial predicament is a lot different than it is now, when they've offloaded a number of players? But clearly there was interest in the player, but we're told there was no real club-to-club contact. It was just at an initial stage, and it doesn't look like that one can be likely in this window.
All right, thank you for that. Now, 24 hours ago, Nottingham Forest boss Nuno Espirito Santo was saying that Forest aren't ready for the new season. Well, fast forward to now, there could be 4 new arrivals at the City ground, and that would, of course, lift his mood, but he still outlined a number of areas where he is keen to strengthen, and that's basically everywhere.
I think we need another option for the goalkeeper situation. I think we need another option. On the defensive line, fullbacks, I think we are okay on the centre halves. Midfield, still need, Nico is injured. I think 2 months to 3 months' time, he'll be back. Daniel is not here, so we need midfielders. On the wings also, Callum done. Only options. And in front, okay, we are Igor, Chris and T, but Jota. Maybe another body will be good because of the amount of competitions and game that we're going to give. So, yeah.
So Nuno saying he's got a few issues to address. Who solves these problems then, Tomasz?
Yeah, it looks like quite good news at the moment for Nottingham Forest with regard to income. It should be said that they're now in the Europa League, aren't they? No longer in the Europa Conference League. And I think that has kick-started their transfer window. I'll quickly rattle through. James McAtee said goodbye to his Manchester City teammates, due for a medical at Nottingham Forest. That deal is worth around £30 million. Omari Hutchinson, another player on his way to the City ground. Nottingham Forest have agreed a deal worth £37.5 million with Ipswich Town. A number of other clubs were interested in Omari Hutchinson. He had a relegation clause of £35 million, which expired. Some of those clubs did meet that clause, but not the conditions. Hence, Ipswich could charge what they want. They've charged £37.5 million. He's on his way to Forest. A deal is also closed for the Stade Rennais striker, Arno Calamuendo, and that deal is worth around £25 million. Add to that, Forest are interested in the Juventus midfielder, Douglas Luiz. Once of Aston Villa, of course, Juventus looking to offload him. And in more good news, Callum Hudson-Odoi is very, very close to agreeing a new contract, an improved, longer-term contract. He's into the final year of his current deal. A 2-year extension is what I'm told is what is being discussed. That one should be announced sooner rather than later.
OK, they're spending above the £150 million mark. Thank you for that, Dharmesh. Well, plenty more still to come, including the latest from Chelsea after Enzo Maresca called for the club to sign him a new centre-back. We'll have another update on Manchester United's outgoings regarding Anthony and Jadon Sancho. Stay with us. Welcome back. 8 new signings through the door at Chelsea, but Enzo Maresca says that the club still have a major gap to fill before the transfer window closes. He is demanding a new centre-back to replace the injured Levi Colwill.
Is a different solution internally or externally?
We are trying to find solution internally, but the club know exactly what they think, and we'll see what's happening.
What do you think?
I think we need a central defender, but we'll see. Also, we are looking for internally a solution. But as I said, the club knows exactly what they think.
What do you make of it, Carve?
Well, good questions from James Green. And also, I think Enzo Maresca maybe said more than he wanted to, although he said it before. But I think Chelsea's position is that really they're not going to go and sign another centre-back. They feel that they have options inside the club who can cover for Levi Colwill until he's back from his serious injury. But obviously, Enzo Maresca wants the club to go out and sign a centre-back. He feels very, very strongly that that's what they should do. So he's obviously making that argument behind the scenes and also in public as well. Interesting to see how it turns out. But our information is that Chelsea don't have any immediate plans to sign a centre-back. But obviously when your head coach is putting so much pressure on you and when agents are getting in touch with you offering players, that situation could change. The one really intriguing one is Mark Guéhi, who
used to be there.
Used to be at Chelsea. Obviously, he may well leave Crystal Palace this summer. Would Chelsea be interested in trying to get him back? Because they have been interested in signing him before.
What about Alejandro Garnacho and Xavi Simons?
I think there's still a very good chance that they'll both end up at Chelsea, but players have to leave Chelsea as well. Players probably like Christopher Nkunku, like Nicolas Jackson, like Raheem Sterling, like Ben Chilwell, because I don't want to be like a stuck record, but Chelsea have this agreement with UEFA that they will balance their transfer spending this summer. So for every penny they spend, they've got to bring a penny in as well. But I think it will end up with these two players coming to Chelsea, but Chelsea's valuation of somebody like Garnacho, I think, is well below what United are looking for.
OK, potential incomings at Chelsea. What about outgoings at Manchester United, Dharmesh?
Yeah, Carlo mentioned Alejandro Garnacho. The other ones, the high-profile ones, Rasmus Højlund. Ruben Amorim says that Højlund is part of the squad looking for this weekend against Arsenal. He is open to a move to AC Milan, is Rasmus Højlund, but he's not fully convinced yet. Talks have taken place between Milan and Højlund's representatives, and they are waiting now for the green light from Højlund to really push with Manchester United to try and get that deal over the line. As for Jadon Sancho, we know that Roma have made a £20 million bid to Manchester United to sign him. Roma are now speaking to Jadon Sancho's representatives to tell them about the project and also the terms of a contract. Again, if they are given encouragement that Sancho would be open to the move, then Roma would then push with Manchester United to try and generate a deal between the two clubs before, hopefully for them, if they want him, signing Jadon Sancho.